It is, as always. Good evening.
Hello.
How are you?
Us active elite says it's the first time being here from Guyana.
Oh, wow. Welcome. Hi, guys. How are you doing?
I'm just dancing in my head because I remember the song about Guyana.
Really? Oh, there you go.
Hi from Hamburg.
Hamburg. Brilliant. Lovely Hamburg. One of almost my home city in a way. I love Hamburg.
Me too. I think it's the first place we spent Christmas.
It was
Oh,
actually,
no,
yes.
yeah.
It was Hamburg.
The first Christmas we spent together was in Hamburg.
Hamburg. There you go. Emotional place. Burkina Faso. Welcome. South Africa, of course, always Sabona. Who else do we got in the house today? Ghana, of course. Brilliant.
Definitely.
Welcome. Let us start, as always, with our tradition by now. We hope you all have your glasses ready with whatever you desire to drink tonight. We, as usual, would go for a wine. Now, today, we have something very special, by the way. I didn't tell you this.
Oh, let's see.
I got something very special today. I got us a very, very good Merlot from France. Okay, apparently a very good one.
Okay,
so let's just see. Red wine today again. You can clearly see I'm a bit more of a red wine fan than...
That's a lot.
Well, I mean, it's for the
I end up just taking 2 sips.
I know,
anyway.
I usually end up drinking it after you.
Oh, dear.
Alright, so how is everybody doing? We hope you had a good week so far.
Happy hump day.
As always, this is always so weird when you say that, but
Yeah, I know.
anyway.
Because get your mind out of the
Germany,
bathtub.
Berlin. Very good. Welcome. Herzlich willkommen für alle aus Deutschland.
Shamaka
Krefeld.
from Nigeria. Hello.
Oh, very good, very good. We're in Nigeria. Are you in Abuja and Lagos?
Well, she's my Igbo sister from her last name.
Well, but you never know. She might be in Imo State. She might be in Lagos. Who knows?
Yeah, or Abuja.
Exactly. All right, guys. We'll give it one more minute, and then we promise we get right into it.
Okay. So
Toast. As always to us.
Do you really want red lipstick on your
Yes,
mouth?
I do. If it's yours, I do.
Yeah.
I thought you'll leave me hanging there.
No,
For a
of course
second.
not. No, it's because the
Wow.
lip gloss that I used today
You
is
pulled
really...
the prank on me.
No, the lip gloss I used today is really sticky. That's why I was...
It's okay.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Prost.
Prost.
Cheers to London, India, Sudan, Grenada. Wow. Abidjan, bonjour. Oh, we had a great time in Ivory Coast, by the way.
Yeah.
Who is Zoro, Vanessa. We were in
From
Abidjan.
Austria.
Yes, we were in Abidjan, I think, last April or something. Yeah.
Okay,
Great.
we're going
Right.
to get into it.
We will indeed.
So today's topic, as you guys know, is how we resolve arguments in our relationship.
Yes, correct. This is something that
It's a work in progress.
well, it's always a work in progress. I think there's no couple, I think, in the world who can say they've completely figured it out. I think the first point we really want to make it clear, every couple fights. Obviously, we have arguments. Obviously, we fight. And as much as, yes, of course, we have an amazing relationship. No need to say that, of course. And it's growing and it's getting stronger. But there is no relationship actually without conflict and argument.
Yeah.
And I would even say conflicts and arguments actually make your relationship stronger because it's a big part of a person on how he or she actually resolves and reacts to conflict. So if you really fully want to know your partner and want to love your partner to the fullest, you have to actually also know how he or she argues.
Yeah, not
Right?
that you should intentionally
No, of
instigate an
course.
argument.
No, of
But of
course.
course, when these things arise, it gives you an insight as to, whether or not you can
Yes.
carry on
Absolutely,
with
absolutely.
said partner.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, we've come a long way ourselves
Oh, yes.
personally.
Oh, yes.
And I'm dying to hear your perception of our communication or argument
Yes.
resolution journey.
Yes.
For me, the beginning of our relationship, I don't know if you noticed this anyway, but we didn't argue.
Okay, true. But I think that's quite common,
Is it
no? When
'cause-
you're in a kind of the rosy...
You think?
Yeah, I think
No,
so.
but,
If you're in like
even
a really loved up period...
Damn it was over a year. We didn't even have we didn't have any
Not a serious... Yeah, you're right.
misunderstanding or argument
Yeah.
with
but-
emotions. I mean,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
we always had different perspectives
Yeah.
on the same thing.
True.
but not in a. It wasn't tied to any
Like
emotion.
Yeah. Okay. True.
Yeah, so for the first year, I used to actually think to myself, is this guy human? Like, why have we never fought? You know, I know that having an argument is important. Actually, the fact is, back in the day, I didn't think that having an argument was important.
Right.
It's only later being intentional. But I was wondering why we never fought.
Yeah.
And I think I realized why.
Tell me.
Because we were long distance, David.
True.
We
yeah.
were long distance
Well,
in the beginning of our
yeah.
relationship, and every time we're together, of course, like if you visited me from Kenya and you were gonna stay only 1 week,
Right.
I'm gonna be smart enough to,
True.
you know, to use that time and just make happy
Well,
memories.
yeah.
Because you know,
Yeah, that's
who knows
true.
the next time. So
That's
I
true.
think having that long distance relationship, and like David said, the very beginning rosy bubbly phase,
Yeah.
there is less conflicts
Yeah.
happening.
It's true.
That being said, I can't even speak for people who start having conflicts very early on in a relationship,
Yeah.
whether that's a healthy thing or not. I don't
I think
know.
it depends really. I think there's no real right or wrong.
There's no
you
right
know,
or
yeah. Because one could say, of course, it's better to have them early on, right? To kind of, you know, get over some of these hurdles early on rather than waiting, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. You think everything is completely rosy and then get into it.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think there's any right or wrong, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So eventually, we move past the, you know, rosy bubble, long distance, all that, and then we started having arguments.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Yes. So.
And I think it was quite a, you know, because we look, obviously in our case, you know, you guys are quite interested in that, and we obviously addressed it a few times. Obviously, there's this cultural difference aspect, and we've talked about this on numerous times. And I think I would say, in as much as for last week, obviously we talked a little bit about the wedding side. Yes, that really came to the forefront, right? But I think that's another area now around arguments and conflicts where I think our different upbringing, let's say, and cultural aspects came a little bit to the forefront. Let's put it that way, right?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of growth, I think, for both of us within that.
Yeah, if we're being honest, a lot more growth for me, right, than you.
I was trying to be, you know, I was trying to be, you know, nice here, but yeah,
You know,
maybe more. But
I think just like I'm not trying to like over generalize when I talk about maybe my culture influenced the way that I perceived
right.
that is the right way to handle an argument. I'm not trying to say that, but I'm just speaking for myself here. Not everyone from my culture or my tribe or whatever argues the same way, but I think it's a mixture of personality as well. Like my family and like my country, my culture, everything. We're pretty much like Nigerians are most Nigerians anyway, very outspoken, and I'll say our mannerism is more aggressive rather than passive aggressive.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I would say confrontational,
sorry.
rather than aggressive, like, you know, confrontational.
Wrong choice of word, Very confrontational, like, and I still to this day see pros in that a little bit. I see how the pro of being just setting things right very early on.
Yeah, not shying away from sorting things out. That's how it phrases it. That's a positive way of...
That is the number one pro. Not shying away. Like if I have a problem with someone, you will know I have a problem with you. And the reason you would know I have a problem with you is because genuinely, I really need to know whether we're moving forward together or we're moving forward separately. So that is a personality thing. It's a cultural thing. And, you know, so obviously the way that translated into my relationship, when you mix somebody who is, you know, very energetic personality, and then you throw in a little bit of emotion, and if it's an emotion that like really is pissing me off, the two don't mix, right? The two don't mix. That being said, that can happen to anybody. The way that you perceive a particular situation or how triggering it is for you. However, that should not implicate the way you then resolve that argument with your partner or whoever it is you're in a relationship with, even if it's just friends. You know?
And on the other hand, of course, from my end, right, the way I grew up and was raised, let's say, right, was, I don't want to say, obviously, like, it's not like we wouldn't address issues or anything, but I mean, number one, it would never get to very emotional, number one. It would be normally quite factual. It would always be emphasized sort of like, don't address things out of emotions, because you usually exaggerate like your feelings, right? So it always, like the way we were taught, let's say, obviously, is like, okay, if you're upset about something, like take your time, sleep over it is kind of this catchphrase that everybody uses, right? And then the next time or whatever, next day you address it, because then you might have collected yourself a little bit better.
True.
You know,
and it's a fact.
So that's where I kind of came from. And of course also, sorry, just
go on.
The other things of course were very much also language wise, for example, it was always, you know, voice, like I don't know, you know, volume wise, but also like language wise was always like, okay, you need to stay calm, you know, very German way. Let's put it that way, right?
I wouldn't even really think that's a very German way.
No,
maybe it's like your household.
Like
way.
the Germans are used to be very direct, but super calm and quiet and like not aggressive or confrontational. Sorry, not confrontational in that sense at all. Like they're direct, right? But they're not like. I mean, have you ever like encountered or like this? Sorry, let's put it that way. Has anybody ever thought the stereotypical German is very emotional and kind of like blah, 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 bubbly? It's the opposite. Very factual, calm, to the point. Yes, they'll be direct.
Yeah.
You know, they wouldn't sugarcoat a lot of things, but they'll be very calm normally. Okay. Annoyingly calm sometimes. You know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I think, where I was coming from a little bit.
Yeah. So I guess first of all, culture. I suppose this is another interesting thing we had to analyze in our relationship, coming from two separate cultures, because clearly now our culture did have an influence in the way that we argued. Yes.
So can I just ask, by the way, I'll be very interested for later on for a Q&A to hear who's watching today would be rather on the, let's say, the more confrontational, emotional side, and who would rather be on the, you know, calmer, you know, let me collect my thought and emotions and let's address it later. I'll be curious to see, by the way, later on, if you guys don't mind putting a comment in what you prefer out of the two approaches.
No, if it's a choice, of course, everyone's gonna prefer that they're quiet, that they're calmer with arguments. But in reality, that's really the issue, that in that moment where you're, I suppose, consumed by your emotion, how many people really take the time to think about it? But anyway, what team are you? So that would have played a role in the way that we approach our argument. So whereas I was first of all confrontational, like, David, can we like talk about this?
Immediately,
like there
David,
and then.
I need to talk to you right now.
No, obviously not. I didn't say
you know what
that
I mean.
way.
You know what I mean.
No, like, babe. Anyway, whatever it is I said out of emotion. There's that one, and then secondly, the fact that, I'm sorry, I don't also want to overgeneralize, but like Nigerians are loud.
That's an understatement.
No, but and I see it as a good thing. Honestly, I would choose my loudness any day. That being said, being very confrontational, being then loud, and, you know, with all the gesticulations and the body language, like, honey, sometimes I wish that there was a footage of like the way that I deliver my message in the beginning. And actually, the reason why I'm more interested in watching that video is to remind myself how you are in that moment.
Oh yeah.
You're just,
because the louder you get normally, or you got at the time, the kind of the more reserved I got.
And it is so annoying for the life of me. You know when you're triggered and you expect someone to match your energy, and they're just
I sucked it out of her. I sucked all the energy out of her.
Raise your vibration and meet me.
I became quieter and calmer. Nothing could have like gotten to me emotionally. I was just like taking the whole argument out of her.
And then David's like, I think we can have this conversation another way. I don't think there's any need to. I'm just like,
maybe we should just kind of take our time and talk about this tomorrow morning when you feel
and I'm like, tomorrow morning? Are you kidding me? You want me to wait how many hours? Are you kidding me? Anyway, let's just say, obviously that doesn't happen anymore.
No, that's true. That is very true.
But I think over time, it really taught me the importance of understanding your partner's communication style. Because a lot of the number, I posted this earlier today, right? The tried and trusted and tested way to successfully resolve an argument is through communication. Oh yeah. If you do not say anything, nothing happens.
Correct. And also I would add, even like, of course, I completely agree. One of the core things there is knowing really how your partner communicates and reacts to things, but it's also being quite self-reflective. I don't think before, for example, you were ever completely aware of how they came across, right? Because it was normal. that's like you didn't know any different, and I didn't know better different. Yeah. I didn't know that, for example, my way to, reacting to, let's say, a conflict was really annoying to somebody else, because that's all you know what I mean? Like, because everybody around me kind of reacted that way, so I wasn't aware completely how sometimes, like, no, I want to see a little bit, like, you know, that you actually care about this. It's like, what do you mean? Like, I want to resolve.
Actually, that's it for me. I felt like you matching my energy a little bit made me, I felt like would have convinced me you were interested in resolving this issue.
Yeah, I remember.
But like, it was a very skewed way to think about it. It's the complete opposite. Like, if you really did care about the topic, and that's why you didn't want to.
I would say I cared about solving the problem, and that's why I stayed so like, oh, let's focus on the facts, right? Yeah. Whereas I think your thinking was like, no, but if you really cared about the issue we're discussing, you would be more involved and more engaged.
Yes.
Right?
That's it.
Would that be a fair way to
say it? Yeah, of course. Because I was focused on that issue, like everything that happened, what you said to me that warranted what I said back to you. Whereas David's like, actually, let's solve it and move on.
Move forward. Yeah, right.
Anyway, it's all a learning process. So because the secret ingredient, or the I suppose the golden rule is communication, it highlights the importance of understanding your partner's communication style. Yeah. And actually, in saying that, that's not to say that you should almost embrace everyone's communication style. No. It's all about you doing some deep reflection, completely, like I had to do, to even ask yourself, is my communication style working? Is this good? Is that some other way that I can approach this?
Completely.
Yeah. So
no, it's not about changing or adapting to your partner's style at all, right? No. That's very important to clarify. Like, that's not what it means. But of course, it could mean that, look, at the end of the day, if you want to resolve something with this person that you love, you need to adjust, not adopt. You know, adapt. Like, you don't have to adopt the style. You have to adapt to the style. Meaning, you have to find a balance there where you still need to put. I mean, you in our case, you still need to be able to bring your point across to the degree that you feel, good about resolving that issue, right? Yeah. But also, you need to be able to resolve the actual issue. Yeah. In the relationship being with me. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. Makes sense. So you need to adapt so that we can find a compromise. And same, by the way, not just to kind of, yes, Adanna said earlier, like, of course, she had to maybe had more growth, let's say, in that regard. But I mean, that doesn't mean that I didn't have to do any learning there myself, right? I mean, don't get us wrong. Like, that also meant for me, of course, for example, just to give you an example, of course, initially, yes, we had those very rare arguments, and then, of course, because of this the honeymoon phase, let's say, right? But of course, for me, it was so strange in the beginning, right? Like, I mean,
really?
Yeah, I mean, like, again, as I said, like in the very beginning, when you really got really upset by something, and of course, the way you just explained you would approach it and deliver it, right? Yeah. The method, the environment you would have used is like, can we talk about this like later, or can we calm down first?
And I'm here thinking,
and you're like, we need to resolve this now, and I was like,
and I'm here thinking, but if you really cared, you wouldn't put it off these many hours to resolve it. Yeah. But actually, the timing matters as well.
But then, to my point, it's like, I also, of course, had to learn that you're only doing that, or you only, like, that's your approach because, for example, you care so much. Right? Okay. Like, the emotional, let's say, as you said, like, loud approach or whatever, confrontational approach, really also showcase, on the other hand, like, you really, really care about this, and it's really important to you.
So I'm glad you saw it that way.
Well, no, of course, I had to. Again, adapting. It doesn't mean I completely agree with it. It doesn't mean, like, I suddenly became loud, right? No. But I at least had to learn, like, not to read it the wrong way. Yeah. Initially, I did. Initially, of course, I looked at, like, damn, you're crazy. Like, I mean, you know how I mean it, but, like, but of course, I had to understand where you're coming from. Yeah. Like, you were just really invested in it, and I had to, like, I had to accept that and kind of, find that balance as well. Just understand that you had a different way of delivering it. And that's also okay.
Yeah. And also, in those conversations, I suppose, seeing how calm you were and focusing, I think it was very counterproductive, because I'm there all emotional, thinking that because I care so much, I want to resolve this now. And I'm approaching it with everything that everything that's molded me into the communication style that I had at the time, which resulted in you trying to then calm me down rather than also tackle the problem.
True.
So basically you're spending the time saying, oh, can we talk about this later? Maybe this, maybe that. And at the end of the day, the point I'm trying to put across, the way that I'm trying to get him to understand why I'm so upset by this, it's not even sinking.
Yeah.
Because for him, this is just not the environment.
Yeah.
This is not the method of delivery. This is the wrong timing.
Yeah.
This is everything that does not enable a very healthy conversation. Yeah. So I'm not listening. And he's not saying I'm not going to listen to you intentionally. It's just realistically, like, my point is not really sinking or registering.
You're focused on all the things that you think is wrong with his approach rather than, really actively trying to, okay, let's figure this out. Yeah. No, it's really,
so it was a huge learning for me because of my constant personal growth journey. I'm just addicted to being the better version of myself. And if after feedback, of course, because after the situation is resolved, because we have a very healthy relationship, there would have been times where we brought that same topic up to say, oh, this is what happened. Yeah. And David telling me especially, well, this is why the situation got out of hand because X, Y, Z. So with all that learning, and then that's actually on communication. That's actually something we then did a lot as well. And this, I think, is one of another core kind of, I think, advice we would ever have is it is also super important, not just in the moment of addressing an issue. We actually then had in the beginning, especially until today, again, this is in constant learning we said in the very beginning, we actually then, I think often, but addressed how we addressed an issue, if that makes sense. So I would go and literally maybe a few hours later, the next day, whatever time, I was like, look, we resolved this issue, so let's not focus on that, but I just want to talk about how you actually brought the topic up or how you reacted, or, and then of course, to be fair, you also then told me like, well, but also actually I didn't like whatever, but like, so even communicating about, let's say, how you were resolving an issue is so important. That's actually, I would say we actually spent more time analyzing how we resolved this issue early in the day than actually having spent time on resolving the issue, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Right? You get me? And that's so important.
I found that very important because, I mean, that is literally the only reason I'm a better person with regards to our communication and the way we handle...
Don't make me emotional now.
Oh, please go away. And the way we handle our arguments, it's all that feedback, all that going back to the drawing board to say, let's talk about this now that everything's settled. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Very important. And again, till today sometimes, again, we have grown so much closer in that regard, and because of that, to be honest. But of course, there are always small moments, where this still happens, and that will always be that way, I think.
Exactly.
I think so.
Yeah. No, it will be. Like,
and that's a good thing.
Yeah, but more and more, I recognize even like every year we get better.
Absolutely.
It's not even, I don't even measure it by years. I just realize every time we then have an argument, I realize, that actually started and ended
in the right way.
In a healthy way. I mean, healthy way. And sometimes like arguments or difference in opinion, we have literally ended with we're going to agree to disagree.
Yeah, and that's okay too.
And that's okay because
that's resolving an issue sometimes,
I'm a full whole person on my own. Exactly, you're a whole person on your own. Yeah. So we are bound to have a difference in opinion.
Absolutely.
Or a difference in perspective, and
absolutely,
and that's okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's okay.
So if we were to kind of put all of this together, right? And see if we could, for example, share like, let's say, 2, 3, 4 different key themes or topics.
Which are 2, 3, or 4?
However many we can come up with.
What would you say? You go first.
I go first.
What's your first tip?
The first
to
one.
handle an argument in a relationship.
Well, if I think of maybe one of the core things, especially in the beginning for me, was probably the approach. And what I mean by that is predominantly, I would say, around timing and place. Right? The fact, for example, that, again, in our case, and that's all we're sharing here in this series of To Navigate, is obviously how we're navigating our relationship. So in our case, I found, for example, a lot of times the timing and the place. Like, again, you're very much bam, bam, straight on. Whenever something happens, it's like sometimes immediately or sometimes within like a very short period of time, you're like, no, what you just said or what happened just then. And I was like, I mean, okay, but like, could we maybe get home, or could we like, finish this more, and then like there was always something around, let's say, the timing and the place, or I don't know, I was in the middle of something, but of course, again, I had to understand you that little, but like you were so pressed, like for your sake, you had to solve this right now, otherwise you would have been for the rest of the day so annoyed. But I was like, I don't know, I could have been in the middle of work or something, but like you had to call me, you had to tell me this right away. I was like, could this wait till tonight till I get home or something, So that was for me one of the big things in the beginning. So I would say number one for me is your approach to resolving something, specifically around the timing and the place. You need to know your partner, and I think you need to be conscious about and self-reflective around, well, how do you normally try to address something, right? Is it something here and now? Or are you somebody who also like tries to kind of find the perfect timing and, that kind of thing. So I think that's important.
But instead of that, I think the take home from this point is the time and the place matters a lot.
Yeah, it matters. It does actually matter.
It matters a lot.
No, it does.
And if I'm generalizing, is public versus private, because you can have a misunderstanding or an argument in a public place, maybe at a restaurant or somewhere. You really cannot successfully resolve that in that same restaurant.
Yeah.
So anything that you're doing there in that public place is really out of emotion, and I don't think it's gonna accomplish what you want to be accomplished, because if you enter an argument, or if something happens in your relationship, like a misunderstanding or an argument, the important thing is to learn what not to do the next time, right? So if you're yelling out of emotion, doing it in the wrong place, that person is focused on calming the situation, maybe trying not to get more peering eyes, all that stuff, that at the end of the day, they're bound to even make that mistake again, because they didn't really internalize what you were saying. So that's the first point. Second point would be emotional state. I just mentioned it earlier. I think it's much better to be in a clearer headspace or a less emotional state going into an argument than, of course, if you're very heightened with all of the negative emotions. And that obviously highlights the point of time, meaning that time is not really like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. It's just really, well, I have taken some time and I actually feel better. I don't feel as emotional, I don't feel as angry. I'm able to clear my head and really critically analyze what it is this person did or said that annoyed me, and then I can articulate that very clearly to my partner so that change happens.
And that actually, I have to admit, was probably your last point actually was a big piece for me, why timing for me was important. Because now you can argue whether it was kind of a language issue or kind of it's my native language or whatever, but like I actually felt also that I wasn't always necessarily as good in articulating really how I felt in the moment. Like I needed sometimes, and again, it might be languages. I accept that, but I don't think it's completely a language. No, I think that. But like I also really needed that time sometimes to formulate, and as you said now, articulate myself exactly what it is, how I felt, what I felt. Maybe Adanna was maybe not doing or doing wrong, whatever the situation might have been, right? But I also needed it from that perspective. You always are really good at articulating yourself, whether emotionally or not. But you generally are very good at articulating yourself.
I will articulate that ish for you.
But personally, at least, again, as I said, it's not just an issue of emotional state. For me, at least, it was also, I was actually much better than in really focusing on what the topic really is, right? And articulating it to you, I think, what I would wish maybe happened differently or whatever it might have been.
Okay. And you were better at doing that at a much later time.
Exactly, because I needed because I needed to first really think about it and reflect on it, right? And really think, okay, so what was it exactly? Was it just maybe in a bad mood? Was it was tired that morning? I don't know. I needed to reflect first to be able to better do that. You were generally good in that already.
Okay. So. And well, thank you. What's the third tip?
Well, the third one, I think also very prevalent in our case. I would call probably maybe deliver, like the method of delivery, I guess, how you it's one thing when you do it. It's one thing the state you're in, although of course the state might influence the third piece. But it does, right? But the method of how you do it. So I guess really around tone and language.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
So obviously we talked about the loudness earlier.
Guilty. Right? There was a placard guilty, raise up if you're guilty.
Guilty, not guilty, yeah.
No, yeah, and I would say, of course, my method of delivery was also is also heavily influenced by my personality or my nature, even when I'm not like. I can like they say, when Nigerians are in a room having a conversation, you might think they're fighting or arguing. We're literally having the best time of our life. So I'm generally like very high toned. I talk. I wouldn't really say I shout, but like we all shout. And so, of course, when you then mix that with a not so good emotional
being upset
state, with a loud voice, it really comes across as proper aggressive. There's no other way to say it. Comes across as proper aggressive. And of course, if, let's just say in the past, when I would have been in a relationship with a Nigerian who argues the same way, I mean, there's nobody giving anybody feedback because you're just in a room.
I want to see that, like, two Nigerians after the fight, like, but I didn't like the way you was allowed.
No, yeah, exactly. So because we think it's because it's our method of like communication, our nature, character, everything. Like there's two people shouting at each other. Obviously, it still gets resolved, but I don't think until this relationship was the first time I actually received feedback on. Actually, not even feedback from you. It's like a personal realization that my method of delivery does not work for everybody, you know, and I wouldn't have been in a position to have that sort of emotional argument or conversation with somebody who I was in a relationship with. So generally I didn't get that self-reflection or that feedback. So method of delivery,
tone
is key.
Also language, so just to add, so not just the tone, I think also the use of language. Again, I think everybody, that might not be the case if of course the native language is the same for both of you, but I think even there the people have different, what's acceptable and what's not, let's just say, without naming anybody, but I think just look, at the end of the day, languages can be important, know your partner, know yourself. The use of language you're using usually, that can make a difference as well. So just be conscious of it. It might not be a problem, but it could.
Actually, another sub point besides the language is just focusing on what the hell just happened. Right? Guys, I'm sorry. If there's any Nigerian in the house, please, I need you to just drop it in the comment. Because you know the way that your parents are yelling at you.
Oh yeah.
In your 20s, and they're telling you what you did when you were 7 years old that really pissed them off. Like you grow up thinking like it's normal to just refer back to a similar situation that happened like a decade ago.
Or something that annoyed them a long time ago. You're like, why are you bringing this up now? Like,
dude, and all the times we're just like, in that time, if you experienced it, right? In that time, you're like, Mom, seriously? Like, what you're bringing up happened like 20 years ago. Can we let it go? You're thinking like, oh, this is weird. But all the things that we, don't like our parents for, shockingly, we act like that. And sometimes I catch myself doing things that I would have rolled my eyes at my mom for. And I suppose it's one of those things where like you bring up stuff that happened like 3 years ago, and it's like, okay, the reason for this particular argument, we've not even resolved it. Like, why are we going back 10 decades? Yeah, so that's also like a learning point. Focus on the point at hand. If there are other issues bothering you, try to separate them and address them separately. Don't let kind of, different topics get mixed up. Can I just say something? Shay actually said it's because issues are never dealt with in the moment. Well, the moment doesn't mean that particular minute, but issues are never dealt with and they're always unresolved, which I 100% agree. True. Because issues are not dealt with, they're not resolved, they're not forgiven. Of course, they're going to keep coming up in future arguments because it'll be difficult to move forward if you haven't resolved something. But I guess the point then is like, if that's the case, of course, that's not a good thing. No, it's not a good thing. But of course, the idea is then like try, if that is the case and you realize, okay, there's some other underlying things, of course, try to then not mix them with a particular topic that has arisen in the moment and for whatever reason was brought up, right? Then solve the issue that whatever you're arguing about, and then of course take your time later on to address the other, because otherwise it's just a vicious cycle you get into, right? If you're mixing up different issues over and over again,
it's not a good recipe. It's not a good recipe, you know, honestly.
Yeah. So given 3 tips.
Yeah, and I mean, look, our kind of always on tip, I would say, right, that always comes with everything. And here we've said it now a few times, is obviously communication.
Oh yeah, of course.
Right. I mean, again, I think the core piece, and when we say communication in regards to, I guess, conflicts and arguments, is yes, it's kind of tone, language, how you communicate your issue, but I would say more broadly, actually bringing up on how you argue is so important. And, you know, again, once an issue is resolved and once you moved on, once you're in a good, you know, everything is good again, to actually address if there was something about how your partner, let's say your partner brought up an issue and you had an argument about something, right? It is absolutely fair afterwards, after everything is resolved, to say, hey, look, fair enough, you know, whatever you brought up, great, but actually, you know what, I would have preferred if you had done or said it in a different way or done it in different, whatever. Like, you know, again, for us, maybe the timing piece, I was like, look, I completely accept whatever the issue might have been. I was like, but maybe next time I would really appreciate if you maybe, you know, if I could have been at home, you wouldn't have called me at work or something, as an example, just, right? Like, so it's absolutely important for you to feel comfortable, right? To also just simply address and communicate to your partner about how it works best for you to address an issue, right? And why maybe a certain way of delivery or certain tone or certain language is important to you, or maybe why you can't kind of stand a certain way. I just, you know, saw another comment. Somebody was also saying that, you know, I think Shay as well, you were saying that, like, you know that your partner, for example, can't stand profanities and immediately shuts down. And so you know that, you know, so you know not to do it, because otherwise you'll never get anything resolved. So I think, it's super important to be aware of these elements and communicate them. Yeah,
I have one last golden tip.
Ooh,
something
that's golden tips. They're always good.
Something that's helped me in my marriage.
Do tell.
I think this might be the first time you're hearing this.
Do tell what helped you in your marriage.
Something that's helped me in my marriage to help my fights, to resolve my issues with David.
Do tell.
And I'll tell you why this is very important to me, right? I'm a very passionate person.
Yes.
I like that passion. It's very reflective in the projects I do, the people I love, the way I do things. But the downside to me being a very passionate person, that also reflects in the way I also get upset about things. This is not even about language or it's not about the other tips we've mentioned. It's like my state of mind and my feeling, because I love so hard.
True.
I'm not going to say I hate so hard, but when I go into a relationship with someone, whether you or a friend or my friends, I'm so selfless. Yeah. I'm not trying
to... Very much all or nothing, right?
It's thank you. Yeah. I'm a very all or nothing kind of person. I got that from my mom, even though I used to tell her, Mom, that's not a good thing to be all or nothing. It's not always black and white. And there's always a gray area, Mom. You need to be whereas my dad is very diplomatic. He sees gray he's like Switzerland.
Everything's gray.
Everything's gray. My mom's like, it's black or it's white. You know, so I have elements of that. My point is, when I then feel upset about or like really fall out of friendship with someone for some reason, it's like, no, I invested so much energy in this, it doesn't resolve itself quickly.
Right.
And so when we have arguments, back in the beginning, I realized that even if we talked about it, I still continued feeling upset. I still would feel so upset. I don't know why. I just like, okay, we've talked about it, why am I feeling this way? So then I spoke to a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine that we went to uni together in England. We've known each other for a long time. She's in a very, very healthy relationship herself. So I remember asking her, how do you go past your argument with your husband? Like, how do you not feel the same way that I feel, where I'm like upset a day later and stuff? And she said because this is what I say. After every argument or after everything that happens that, you know, everything that her husband does that annoys her, she always asks herself, number one, do I still love him? And the answer is yes, I really do love him. And the second is, do I want to continue in this happy, healthy marriage?
Right.
And the answer is yes. So every time she answers both, she said everything else just disappears, because she's actually answered yes, that she wants to. because she's answered yes, that she wants to move forward with the marriage, with the relationship, she said, why would I then waste a whole day, 2 days, a week, not resolving an issue, rather than continue in this very healthy relationship? True. And then that really, it really did something in me. It really made me feel like, you know what, I love David. Like, you know, I really want to move forward in this relationship. So it's better to move forward on a clean slate and to let things go. Good point, And the reason why I feel like that's very important to ask yourself that is because if you answer that you don't want to continue in the relationship and you're not happy, it's better, like, you might as well start making exit strategies and exit plans, right? Rather than remaining upset in this relationship that you know you don't want to continue with, you know? So that's one tip that really helped me, just in that moment, after everything's talked about, asking myself 1 or 2 questions and then just...
Okay, that's very good, actually. All right.
Sorry, I'm about to sneeze.
That's okay. That's not a sneeze, though.
I was laughing.
That was not a sneeze.
I was trying to sneeze and then
Should we talk about that? That was not a sneeze, but okay, fine.
I was trying to sneeze and then...
It sounded like a fly in your throat or something.
I was trying to sneeze.
But that was very sweet.
And then your hand on my back just made me like laugh and anyway.
Anyway, that was very sweet.
The sneeze?
No. The sneeze. Not the sneeze. No, what you said before the sneeze.
Excuse
very
me.
Very true.
Yeah. So.
Brilliant. All right. Well, those were kind of our I guess key points, really. I guess as a summary of you know what we've gone through so far, and it's, as we said in the beginning, it's a growing, it's a process, right? We're still growing, we're still learning as well ourselves. So
there's a few questions that I've wanted, like two questions.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's Q&A time now. Anyway, I was going to say that. Like, I know. Let's see if we can get through some of your questions. We've seen obviously a lot of you have been submitting questions.
Interrupted you.
No,
I was busy reading the questions.
That's okay. I was going to say, like, obviously a lot of you have submitted your questions already. Now, again, now's your time. Really, we have some time now for Q&A. So let's see.
Someone said she would ask herself, did my husband do this intentionally?
Right. That's also
which is a very good question,
yes.
because oftentimes the answer will be no. Well, this person didn't actually sit down and deliberately plot to piss you off. So, you know, that might be something that helps you emotionally to get over it. Yeah. Someone asked if we argue in front of the kids.
That is a great question, actually.
It's not like we need to think about it.
No. But no, it's a really, of course, a good maybe as a parent yourself, maybe I don't know, or maybe a future parent, of course. But that's an interesting question.
The answer is no.
No, we try not to. Absolutely.
The answer is no, and I would say that's one good thing I got from my own family. Because I remember being in high school, and I have a few friends talking about their parents' fight and their argument and stuff. And I genuinely was convinced. Like I used to say to my friends, my parents have a perfect relationship. My parents are happily married. They never fight. I think it's until I had a baby that I even, you know, got more. I suppose when you become on mother level, like your mother starts letting you in on some things. That's when I was like, oh shit, well, you guys did a good job hiding this from us. And I thought like that was really a healthy mental space to have as a child growing up, thinking that you're from a healthy family situation. And that's something that we very much want to carry on into this, where we're not going to have fights in front of the kids.
No. I mean, I think it's fair, of course, to have disagreements. Like, there's nothing to hide. I mean, you know, of course you would have disagreements. Like, I would have seen my parents, of course, disagree or something. So it's not like nothing to hide, because also, of course, I think important to let your kids know it's okay to have disagreements. Right? It's normal, it's healthy, right? Because you don't want to grow them up, you don't want them to grow up to kind of necessarily think like it has to be all rosy. But there's a difference between a casual disagreement over maybe a small thing versus a real kind of argument or fight.
A practical example could be dressing the kids up, because David and I have very completely different style or taste, right? David's all about, like, I think it's the German thing as well, very practical, comfortable, practical clothes. And I'm about practical, but it should have I am.
No, you're not.
David,
no,
I am. This is us agreeing.
Let's have an argument about that.
Let's have an argument about this. Is the right time and place.
Not.
I'm kidding. No, like I'm practical, but it has to have style. Meaning that, for example, we have 2 jackets. One is completely practical and another is like 90% practical, 10% stylish, I would go for that one than this one, to just generalize it. But my point is, the argument could be, or the disagreement could be like, kids are going to the park and I'm like, oh no, this jacket looks better, and Dad's like, oh no, the weather looks like it's about to rain, so we're gonna wear him this. And we go back and forth in front of Kian, because we're not yelling, we're not shouting, no, it's just like an opinion situation.
Absolutely.
So
no,
that's normal. But
yeah.
when emotions are involved,
not like real family or relationship related kind of arguments. That of course is not something that we at least try and have ever kind of really carried out in front of them. And I think that's good as well, especially at that age. I mean, there's an element you can argue when they're older. Of course, it's okay to talk about this, so they know that is okay to happen as well. But certainly not at a young age. Like absolutely not. No, I don't think that's a good idea.
No, I don't think so. Okay, should we do one or two questions?
Yes, let's do some more. Any other questions you guys might have on this particular topic, of course? And again, we're just looking here down to the screen to see if you have anything. The clothes dryer, yes, that's. How do you teach your children conflict resolution skills between each other?
Oh,
that is a good one. Now, obviously.
I'm sorry, no, go on. It's just so funny, the conflict resolution. Yeah, we know who mostly starts the.
I was gonna say, because problem. Our kids, of course, every kid, of course, is very different, right? So it kind of depends a little bit on your children. But look, obviously, we try to treat them completely equally. Now, needless to say, and be very open and direct. I think, I mean, of course, if we at least believe we've seen or know who kind of, let's say, the perpetrator is, and again, it's tends to be one person more than the other, but that's okay.
Everybody watching already knows who it is.
But of course, look, things like it's important to call it out. I'd say, like, some parents don't want to get into it because they don't want to upset the kid or something. But it's super important to let them know when they've done something wrong. Yeah. Number one.
So right? So for the both kids, like when they have a fight, and of course if they do it in front of us, we know immediately like who is at fault. Yeah. But let's just say they're in their playroom, we're either cooking or doing the laundry, and all of a sudden there's a scream. They both can talk, so someone's gonna say what happened, and we have a 3-step apology process. Please. The hugging.
Oh, I was like, do we?
No.
I know what you mean. When you said that, it sounds very formal.
When I incorporated that, it was an intentional framework. Yeah. It was a step-by-step apology process.
Yes, correct. So I was going to get to that. So number one is calling it out. But number two, that is super important, was we will stop everything until you've apologized. Like, there's no way around it. Like, we would wait 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. 1
hour, I'm ready.
Fortunately, that never got into that.
But I'm saying if I
we would literally hold our dinner, hold playtime, whatever, until the person would have apologized. And the 3-step you mentioned is number one, of course, to say sorry.
Look them in the eye.
Look them in the eye. You're right. Look them in the eye and say so. Not just one of those like sorry. When you're upset, you just kind of. No, you have to look them in the eye. Say sorry. You're gonna go hug your brother, and you're gonna give him a kiss on the cheek. Yeah. Like. All 3 things have to be kind of fulfilled, for us to move on.
It's a step-by-step,
But of course, look, on the other hand, of course, they're at a very young age. Like, there's, of course, we try to explain why certain things are wrong, but, again, they're very young at this point. It's all about just kind of making them sure they apologize, they, acknowledge it, and then kind of move on. So that's really, I think, how we, at this point at least, try to resolve conflicts.
Let's see, one more question. Someone said, do you think taking 3 days... in brackets, silent treatment to gather your thoughts and respond to what caused the argument is healthy?
2 free.
If I was to answer that, I would say that that's not healthy.
No,
I wouldn't.
I agree.
I wouldn't. 3. I mean, I know we're talking about timing and place, but I'm sorry, 3 days, and in that 3 days where you're giving me the silent treatment, it's not healthy because it just shows that you're carrying a lot of grudge or emotions and
there's also I agree. So we talked about earlier, of course, maybe to keep some time to kind of gather your thoughts and stuff like. But I mean, at least certainly when I said this, I don't mean 3 days. That's torture.
Yeah, that is torture. No, that's emotional torture.
It could be a matter of hours, or worst case scenario. If it was maybe an argument late at night, you kind of wait till the next day because you sleep over because it was late in the evening or whatever. But like 3 days, an hour at least, I guess I can speak for us now. But like that's too much. Because also another thing with that, sometimes it can be if you wait too long, the issue can get much worse. Yeah. Right? Because you can get so much into it, like, and it can actually make it much worse than it might have been if you had addressed it earlier than 3 days.
Yeah.
So there's a difference between, let's say, in the moment, 5 minutes after it happened, versus leaving it for 3 full days, right? Yeah. So I would say, I agree. Like 3 days is a bit too much.
3 days is too much.
It makes sense to have. Does it make sense to have deal breakers in a relationship? Like if a partner does something, then the relationship is done, or should there be room to work through every kind of issue? That's a tricky one, because it really depends on I think each individual, to be honest. What you believe is acceptable. I believe there are some deal breakers.
Yeah.
I almost feel like, right? But it's very, I think on that one, because I guess you're talking about the kind of worst case scenarios, you know.
But
or what do you use?
Yeah, and for me the sub question is, should there be room to work through every kind of issue? I 100% believe there is room for everything. There is room to work through anything. That being said, that room or that space you create to then work on that problem doesn't mean that the end result is going to be that you move forward.
True.
But,
that's a fair point.
But to literally just go from that situation to like, we're done, that's very immature.
True.
So there is always room to work on things. There is always room. But I think in doing that, you then realize whether or not you're going to move forward with that person.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it depends on what the issue is. Like if there's specifics, I can narrow down the answer. But generally speaking, there is room. But then you decide after you've tackled that whether that's something you can move past, you know?
Very good point, I agree. It's actually a very good point.
This is where I shout 50 minutes. Oh my God.
Don't be surprised. Now, should we take one last question,
Okay,
guys?
one last question. What's it gonna be?
Let's see. Any last questions for us?
One last question.
Let's see.
Okay.
Oh, somebody's joining now. Yeah, you're slightly late. We're about to wrap up, but still welcome, exactly.
Welcome, Adobe. Okay.
Do you guys have anything else you want us to address?
Sorry, okay, that last one is not really a question. Someone said, the last question is, I'm not seeing the questions you're answering. Did I miss something?
Oh, you might have.
I mean, you might have.
They're in the chat.
They're in the
scroll
chat.
down through the chat. Now, obviously, we're not able to answer all questions because there are quite a few coming in, but we're trying to see if there's anything that's relevant also to the topic.
Maybe, okay.
Go ahead.
I missed that. You've just scrolled past
Oh, sorry.
I don't know which one it was now.
That might be an interesting one because it's very much about the topic, right?
Sharon said, I do the same thing with my kids, the 3-step apology.
Yes.
Go Sharon. Go Sharon.
Now, I think, so the last thing I think that is super interesting and is really, really much about addressing also the topic we're talking about today. Daniela Helmgens said, if you keep arguing over the same thing for more than a year, can it still be a healthy relationship? That's actually a very, very good question to ask. I would say, and you might have something much smarter to say.
David.
I would say probably, I mean, you would have to ask yourself, of course, if you're still arguing about the same thing, have you ever properly addressed it? I mean, I would like to think, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, at some point there might be iterations of a similar issue maybe popping up again in the future, right? Mm-hmm. But again, I don't know the extent. Like, is it the exact same problem all over again, or is it kind of okay? He or she has improved, but there's still, you know.
Exactly.
But so my intuition would suggest, of course, maybe then, you know, he or she, your partner, has never fully understood what the issue is, maybe.
Yeah.
Or
actually, yeah.
you have never fully addressed it properly, to be fair, as well, right? It might be that one as
You've
well.
not communicated exactly the way that issue makes you feel.
You have not made it clear enough of what exactly you want changed, right? So it sounds a little bit strange to me if it happens, the exact same thing happens again, over and over again over a year. But yeah, it depends a little bit on the context, I would say.
Yeah, it depends.
So maybe think about it for yourself, whether you've made it clear enough, or whether he or she just is not responding to it at all. Yeah. That's what I would say. What would you say?
I'd say the same thing.
Oh, now you're trying to be nice to me.
No. Maybe I'm always nice to you.
True, actually. Yes. All right. Well, with that...
Okay, one last question.
Okay, go for it.
I feel like if anyone comes here, I'd want them to get the most out of the session. Someone says, what do you do in the cooling period before addressing the issue? Do you go mute on the person, try to act normal, ignore? I think that really borders on what you answered the last time, right? Like, what do you do in the cooling phase? Do you go quiet? It really depends on the length of time, because going silent for how many days, it kind of just brings back to this thing we're saying it shouldn't be up to 3 days. It shouldn't be hours.
Exactly.
Right?
But actually, that's a funny thing. Can I share something there with everybody? Is one thing I hated about myself, okay, was especially on this particular topic, cooling period. So let's assume I was very upset about something, okay, that Adanna did or said or whatever it might have been, and I was trying my hardest to be really upset, okay. But that's where kind of the personality or character are slightly different. Like if Adanna was upset in that kind of cooling period, yes,
I'm not saying anything.
Not even good morning, good night, nothing, which was understandable. And that changed after we resolved everything. Everything was great again, so it was okay. But I just couldn't be fully upset at her. Like I would still be tempted to at least say good morning or good night, or kind of, if I was doing some food or something, I would do something for her, but still trying to be like have a very upset face, but like, here's your scrambled egg, like
ours is not about good
hilarious.
Morning, because we never go to bed upset.
No, but
so it's not like good morning.
Like a greeting or whatever we pass. But
it's one of the, oh babe, I'm actually thinking of making dinner. What do you fancy? And I'm thinking,
why are you talking
you just
to me?
pissed me off.
Yeah.
What are you saying? Don't talk to me.
But even
pretend I'm not here.
But that's understandable if I was the one upset you. But even if I was upset at something that you said,
oh yeah,
you understand?
yeah.
Like I could not be
fully
upset
on you
at
then.
you.
That's
no,
on
I
you.
know. But like I got so angry about this. Like even in that cooling period, if I was cooling down, let's call it, right? I could not be 100% like ignoring you, even if I tried. Like it's just so annoying. Because I just loved you so much.
It's my charm.
I just loved you so much.
It's my charm.
I could not be fully angry at you.
Oh, damn it. Okay.
Just the truth.
Thank you. I love that. Okay, guys, thank you so much for tuning in.
As always.
We're going to see you in the family vlog this weekend. Follow us on Instagram, Adanna_David, and subscribe to this YouTube channel if you aren't already.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the week, as always, and we'll see you. You're gonna say something. Let me see. Have a great rest of the week.
What did we change it from?
What do you mean?
Do you remember when I was like...
Oh, have a great rest of the week. I'm learning. You see?
Okay.
I even said it right.
I'm sorry, you said...
Have a great rest of the week. Enjoy it. We'll see you on the weekend for our family vlog, as you said, and then next Wednesday for another live. So, all the best.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Take care. Oh, God.